Dean Zepherin, aka Zepherin Saint. Thank you for joining me on the show. How are you?
Great. It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, man.
Yeah, it's been a minute. How's Melbourne? You're in like lockdown at the moment, right?
Yeah, we're in stage 4 lockdown. Hopefully it's coming to an end pretty soon. But yeah, it's tough in Victoria at the moment for a lot of the small businesses here. It's, we hit another spike and then everyone had to go into stage 4 lockdown. And we just can't wait to see the end of it. But it's really tough on all businesses, not just the entertainment business, but a lot of the mama and papa businesses are really kind of closing up shop.
Yeah. Are you seeing a lot of empty places?
Yeah. You go into the malls and you're just seeing just before the stage 4, there was lots of closing down, sales going on, and, just a lot of places now up for lease everywhere. And yeah, it's a real shame to see.
Yeah.
Real shame.
Yeah. You've been in Melbourne for a bit now.
Yeah.
How long? When did you make the move there?
2 years now. I came here from Berlin. I was in Berlin before here, and so just coming up to 2 years.
Okay, and you're working, and from there you set up your studio. You're running your labels from there. It's still Tribe, right? You're still
Tribe. Yeah. Basically transferred everything that I'm doing over to here. That's the great thing about being online is that you can just do it. Having an online business, you can just do it from wherever. Yeah. So I run Tribe from here. I've got a new label, which I'm sure we'll speak about. That's based upon the Australian acts, which I'm running from here as well.
Yeah.
And set up my studio here in my home, and running everything from my new city, my new hometown.
Okay. Yeah, you've been traveling to Australia quite often over the years, like with your touring, and so Melbourne was something that
Not initially. It's quite funny. Not initially. I wasn't. It wasn't a place that I had set my mind to move to. But I met my wife. And she's from here, although we didn't meet here. And later on into our life, we said, okay, let's make the move and let's see what it's like to live in Melbourne.
Right.
It wasn't a problem to me because I like you said, I'd been here so many times before, and got to know people here, and was very fond of the city. I don't really know the other parts of Australia, so Melbourne was always my anchor place to come to. So it felt really easy to do.
Yeah. I wanted to touch on today with you about like the importance of collaboration and community, and it's been very quite a significant part, I guess, of your ethos and the way you work. How are you finding that, especially with a lot of the artists and musicians that you work with are around the world? Even before COVID, I guess obviously everything was online as well. But even now, how are you finding that way of working? Has this been a good part of COVID in one way?
Yeah, like I said, collaborating is something I've always done, and it's a way I've always kind of worked with the label as a Tribe. Collaborating with singers and musicians from all around the world has always been the way I operate. Whether they'll deliver vocals over line or we would do Skype sessions before when we was working more with Skype. It's now actually it's become a bit more intense. I'm actually getting so much more done now, obviously because everyone is at home. Unfortunately some of the people I work with don't have the facilities at home, so they can't, so they are unable to record. But those that do, it's been fantastic. It's been really consistent. The collaboration gear is just kicked up, with the musicians who I've been working with online, and and there's a lot more technology out there that allows you to actually create together at the same time, which has been great to experiment with. So in terms of creating, the lockdown has actually enhanced it. It hasn't kind of caused any kind of delays in my operating of producing.
Right. And so that has improved collaborating projects as well. Like, have you found that? Yeah. Right.
Yeah. I'm finding that people who maybe because of their busy schedule, because a lot of people still have a 9 to 5, as well as working in the industry, so they weren't able to really kind of give you as much as they would like in terms of songs. So now I'm just finding, people's a lot more open to collaborating because they've got the time to do it. So that's really been a plus sign and a positive.
Right.
Tell
me, I mean, the whole like the idea and the concept of collaboration and the use of it in your projects and the way you've built your label over the years. Where did that come from? Like, and because you've got some labels that kind of like focus on particular acts, or is this something that you built the label around, or like, tell me a bit about your desire around and around collaboration.
Well, I felt it was always, Tribe to me was always I always saw Tribe as a great launch pad for artists. And a great way to do that was to get people working with each other, working with myself, and using Tribe as a vehicle to go on to bigger labels. And I haven't got a problem with that. I'm quite happy for Tribe to contribute to someone's career in that way.
Right.
And to me, collaborating was just another way of me looking at it as an A&R. And putting my A&R hat on and saying, oh, okay, that beat you've got there will be great with that vocalist, or that melody and that singer, or that melody that top liner has will be great with that singer. And, and fusing collaborations in this way, because, that's where it comes from the A&R and that I've done in the past. That's how you work with to create a song, and obviously from my producer head. So that's always, I guess, it's just been a part of who I am. It wasn't something that I set out to strategically do. That's just how I like to do it.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? That's how I like to see things develop. That's how I like to see things create. It's not a Tribe to me wasn't about really trying to focus on the artists and build 3-4 albums for them. It was to try and focus on the artists to get them to a point where they can then maybe do it themselves, or maybe, a much bigger label than Tribe will then show interest to them.
Right.
And take them to where they need to go. Where an independent may not be able to take them. A small independent like myself wouldn't be able to take them.
Right. So it was more of like a launch sort of, or a stepping stone for them.
Yeah, that's kind of how I initially saw Tribe as a label, and that's how it's continued in that way.
How many years is it now? How many years?
It's coming to 11 years now.
Oh, right.
It'll be 12 next year. Yeah.
Okay. And I guess I again, like what you said, it wasn't a strategic thing, but from creating this with this kind of operating from this place, then the sense of community kind of like, because there is a sense of community building that happens in this kind of process as well. Would that be the same thing as well? Okay,
yeah.
I didn't really think about the name tribe is like
that's right. Yeah, that's where that came from. In building that community, and also the motto that I have for tribe, which is one sound, one people, one tribe. We're all in this together.
Right.
So it's very much a community feeling, and into the events that tribe has done over the years as well. It's very much about bringing that community spirit. And anyone who's been to a tribe event, I'm sure would say, they really felt as if they were part of a community once there, because it's important to have that.
Yeah.
It has. But like I said, that's how I like things personally.
Yeah.
So I guess that's what transcends into anything which I build or create.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's a testament to kind of like, following your own kind of DIY process and how that's important to kind of not think that there's this one size fits all to kind of create a label. You can really, really follow what it is that really resonates with you inside of what you're trying to do, and then trying to create that universe or that ecosystem and
yes.
Yeah, I mean, you didn't really paint that picture so clearly in the start. It was just like, well, one building block at a time, or how how did that come from?
I mean, I've always been someone who's worked for themselves.
Yeah.
I've been employed a couple of times in my career by other companies, but for the most part, it's something that I've wanted to build myself. I just have that nature in me that I like to create for myself.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of where it came from, really. It's, initially I had my recording studio as a business, then I had my management company as a business, then I moved on to some employment, and then I went into my label as my business. I've always kind of had a vision for what I wanted to do in the industry, and having that vision. You can't really do that if you're employed in a position to do it under someone else's company. It's something that if you're going to have that vision, for the most part, you got to develop that yourself, and you got to stick with it, and you got to and run with that.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I've always done.
Okay. And so tell me, the community building, and the collaborations, was this also something that came from the start, and that was kind of pretty much like the why, and then how came after, how to do it, how to create it? Or
I'll be honest with you, it was never a case of thinking of the why and the purpose. It's just a case of, if I take you right back to the start, everything that I grew up with as a culture musically was community based. Do you know what I mean? So I come from the sound system culture, which is a community collective. Now you would call that a DJ collective, but back then it was a group of young guys who would get together and start a sound system together. Pitch in, build their own speakers, build their own amplifiers. Collect records together, hire venues, put on parties. That is a community experience.
Yes,
and I've been doing that since I was a teenager. So it's always been a part of my musical kind of culture, has always been based around community. When we were putting on parties in the 80s and putting on warehouse parties, it was a community effort that put that on. It wasn't just one person that put it on. It was a group of people coming together, or us working with, the group of people who own the squat and did all the art and everything inside there. And, you're just working with different communities and you're coming together to put on an event. And, so it's just always been a part of my ethos and a part of my culture.
So it's ingrained in your DNA almost. Yeah.
It's ingrained. I can never say, oh, that's my purpose or that's my why, or I've been. I'm just like, well, that's all I know. That's all I know when it comes to that community spirit within music.
Right. And I guess that kind of brings a level of authenticity about it. It's not something that you can try to strategically kind of create. Like, it really does have to be something that's kind of coming viscerally inside of you, like it's got, it's almost like, when you're trying to produce a track or creating a project, you can be strategic till the cows come home, but at the end of the day, it's got to come from that deep part of you that's all organic, and otherwise it becomes too formulated, or it looks too, So how do you keep that? How do you keep that that authenticity and keeping that going within Tribe and the label?
That's easy. We just continue to be true to yourself.
Yeah.
And for me, it's just whatever resonates with me. If it resonates with me, then I know it's true to me.
Mm.
If I'm really feeling it, I love to chase goosebumps. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
So so with music, I always chase goosebumps. That's part of my activation, rather than chasing what the charts are saying.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know what I mean? Or positions on the charts, or what the charts are dictating. I chase what it is I'm feeling.
Mm.
And that kind of helps me to remain true to myself and true to what it is I would like to do.
Yeah.
Musically, I would like to, and that's not an egotistical thing. That's more coming from a place of contribution. How do I want to contribute to the world musically? And that's where it comes from.
Yeah. Well, that is a perfect segue to the next part I want to talk about, because it is when I think this is where people get confused with when they're creating a business or creating art, that there's the fear of the unknown, like going out there and creating, like what you just explained about following the goosebumps. It's like you're thriving off that fear of the unknown, and just kind of like using that as a vehicle to tell you, okay, well, that's the direction I need to go, because I'm doing something that's outside of the status quo. It's like I'm creating something new that's not following. I'm there's so many labels, there's so many DJs, there's so many producers, but I'm creating my own unique voice. And to do that, we remixing and following and looking at other artists and looking at other and influences is part of that. But you've got to create your own voice out of it and finding your own unique way. So where I'm heading with this is about overcoming fear, is something that you mentioned in earlier in our pre-interview, is becoming stronger at overcoming fear over time. Tell me things creating a label out of thin air and creating and going out against all odds and doing that's can be very scary for someone. And I'm sure you've developed a muscle over time, mentally, and emotionally, And then it becomes part of you. Like, when those goosebumps come up, it's like, oh, I'm familiar with that. So yeah, tell me has fear become more of an emotional compass for you as opposed to
definitely. Yeah. Over the years, fear has actually become a tool for me. It's a way of me actually, it's a way of me acknowledging, well, it's the failure, really. It's rather than look at the fear, it's the failure, because like the failure has become the tool, because is when you fail, it over time I realized, this is just giving me an opportunity to do it better. This is giving me an opportunity to work out where I went wrong. And because what leads up to that is the fear of that failure. Right. And when you have the fear leading up to that, what it does is it's you end up paralyzing yourself. You end up actually just staying in that position, and you don't move forward because you're fearing to move forward. And yeah, that's definitely happened to me over my career, in many different ways. And it's only experience is the best teacher, to deal with, getting over that fear. So when you're saying, is fear my navigation of compass, it's more so the results that fear manifests, the results that it brings. Do you know what I mean? So yeah, so it's when it comes to challenges over the years in my careers, I have built up that muscle to say, to create something out of nothing. That actually isn't the hardest part for me. It's once you've created it and you're in it, that's when it really starts to build up the momentum of fear. Because as you start to drive a juggernaut, do you know what I mean? And your engines, or you start off driving a 1.1 liter, and that car gets bigger and bigger, that engine gets bigger and bigger. You've still got to hold on to that steering wheel. You've still got to, be able to steer it in the right direction. And if you take your eye off the road, out of not being disciplined, out of fear, and putting your hands over your eyes and just like, I don't know where this is going to go. Yeah, of course, you're gonna crash. You're gonna lose your way. And for me, it hasn't been the starting. It's once you're in it, the managing of the fear. Once you're inside your project, is where you've got to really get your discipline and really get on top of it and not let it control you.
So, how do you deal, with lost opportunities or working on a particular project that does so-called fail, or it doesn't go in the direction of the desired outcome? How do you navigate, to prevent that from happening in the process? Because what you fear will manifest and happen. So do we not fear then? But if we're learning from fear later to give us the results that we want to learn to become a better version, and create better projects, and maybe there's something I didn't learn or didn't know, and I need to learn in this experience so I can do it better next time. But isn't there something that we could be doing before the crash, or to prevent that crash? Or when that crash happens, you go, well, it's just, I know what to do now. Why can't I, let's keep going? Or, it's, where I'm getting at is what can we do to help us with, in that feed process? When we're going, we can feel that there's anxiety, something's not right, but you really want to make this thing work. You want to make it happen. So do you wait for the for the crash, or do you try to find a result to improve during the process?
It all depends. It all depends what you're working on. If you're talking about working on a song and you're changing directions, and you kind of want to change directions in your career, or you want to try something new, you've just got to put it out, because that's the only way you'll ever know. Staying on your hard drive because of the fear, because that's, if we're talking about being in the moment, if you've got a project, which happens to a lot of producers and songwriters out there, they have projects and it just lives on their hard drive. It doesn't get out, and it doesn't get out because what's the fear that arises in that scenario? It's what will people think of me? What will people say about my music? What are the reviews that I will get? DJs won't play my music, and all these kind of voices come in your head, which is the fear, which stops you actually putting it out and seeing, well, what if you're wrong? What if people love it? What if people do want to hear it? What people want to hear more? What if that is actually the direction that you should actually be going? You just will never know until you just put it out and let it speak for itself. And if it doesn't do anything, then you've learned something. You've learned that it hasn't done. Or sometimes, with some people, it doesn't do anything now, but it may do something in the future, and you've planted that seed for it to people discover music from 10 years ago and just like, oh my gosh, and then that person suddenly has a comeback, or 20 years or 30 years.
Yeah, exactly.
So there's many stories like that. So I think it's important, whatever it is that you do, regardless of whatever you may be feeling in the moment, you got to complete it. First and foremost. Is
this something that you try to nurture and work with artists as well, that you might come across artists that have this kind of resistance, and do you try to have you found that this, what we're discussing now, is something that comes part of your job as a label owner as well? And,
I mean, obviously you have different relationships with different people.
Yeah.
And those relationships which I have developed that are deeper, yes, we have those conversations all the time.
Yeah. When it's a bit more personal. Yeah.
Yeah, when it's a bit more personal. And we'll have those conversations, and we'll talk through the anxiety that one would feel. We'll talk through the fears that one would feel. And it's an ongoing process. And it's something that doesn't get spoken of a lot, and it's starting to get spoken of now. I'm actually, I speak to colleagues and musicians and so on now more about it.
I think that has a lot to do.
Yeah, spoken before in terms of anxiety.
Yeah, I think that has a lot to do with the state of the world at the moment. People are becoming more reflective in this, say, the last 6 months of 2020. There's been a conscious shift. People are becoming a bit more internalized, and
people are a bit more aware of their mental health.
Yeah,
because they've had to spend so much time with themselves.
Yes, yeah.
So that's made them more aware of that. And so I think because of that, I think it's actually been a positive, and it's allowed us to start speaking openly and being a bit more vulnerable about mental health issues, which actually exists in a big way for creatives.
Yeah.
Especially for people in the music industry. It exists in a big way.
Yes, exactly.
And
it kind of inspired me with this podcast, to be quite honest.
Yeah, great. And it really does hold back a lot of people's talent. And there'll be a lot of people who'll be in their studio just pulling their hair out from different reasons. Maybe they're doing music that they just don't want to be doing.
Yeah.
But they can't pull away from that. They really know that they've got to be doing something else, and they can't pull away from it for whatever reason. Could be financial, whatever. Or they just can't seem to finish what they start. They just can't seem to finish it. They can't get it over the finishing line.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things that I wanted, like from this last chat was the what we're discussing can be the same way, not just with music, but just like in building a music project, or just even from an entrepreneurial level, the same kind of principles here. And I find that this fear of failure is also very parallel to the fear of rejection. Fear of, and and so and from this last point you just mentioned about that, these hurdles that are that are causing resistance, or that are in the way of just trying to get that part over the line, and it could also be because they haven't connected with their true calling. They they might be doing something that's not really aligned while it's making music, and it seems like it's like the thing that they want to be doing, like it's what they're passionate about, but it's not the project that they're really passionate about. And that ends up, that can actually be very detrimental to your art process and really doing what you really want in life. And I think people get distracted by that and not really taking the leap.
Well, some people don't have the luxury to be able to, for financial reasons, they don't have the luxury to kind of really take that jump, to really be doing what they want to be doing. And, as with anything, if you really want to be doing what you want to be doing, you got to have there's got to be some sacrifices that has to be made. Yeah,
there's got to be some friction.
Yeah. It's never going to be something that drops out of the sky. No. And obviously the older you get, the more responsibilities you get, it makes it harder to do that, which in turn creates that depression.
Yes.
It can create that depression in someone because they're just like, they're just screaming.
It hasn't happened yet. I've been doing this for 20 years. I can relate to that.
And it's something we need to speak about more, because then at least people will realize they're not alone out there.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It just really just boils down to the fact of belief is a strong part of it. Having that belief and forming that belief in yourself. But how do you form the belief in yourself is by doing, is by having that action.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And that action to actually go out and, we're talking more so in music, having that action to just go in your studio or your environment, whatever you have, or pick up your guitar and just start creating. So you can actually start believing that you have that talent, because other people will see it before you see it.
Yeah.
I've had many encounters where I see someone's talent that they do not see in themselves. Over and over again.
Yes. Yeah.
And they lack that belief, which means they lack that motivation, that endure to kind of drive them through. And it's another thing I think we are missing in with people in the music industry, or people, producers, songwriters, is self-leadership, because the industry is being built up in such a way that you need a manager, you need an agent, you need this, you need all these components, which is true. You do. You need, no one's going to be successful on their own. You need a team, but before all of that, you've got to be able to lead yourself.
Yes.
You've got to be able to lead yourself, because if one of those components break away for whatever reason, you're left back at square one.
Well, that goes back to what you were saying before as well with, obviously we've got to pay bills and there's the practical, but there is a point where we've got to take that leap and take that leadership, because, and this is what I meant by friction, because I think people can get too comfortable, it's almost like a comfort zone. You sit there and you just keep saying, well, I've just got to get this much money before I can do that. That could be a perpetual loop that you stay in.
That's
and
right,
it causes that, over time. And therefore, you could have the greatest music and it's just sitting there. And until you really make that leap to get it out there, and, it's really about crossing that line. There's that fear of rejection, the fear of failure, all those kind of things that come in. And I'm a firm believer that this is actually connected to early childhood traumas, things that you've learned, the way you've been conditioned at home, your experiences. These are things that need to be overcome first as well. Like, I think that has a big part in changing your belief system. And
I think your environment, I agree with you. I think your environment and the way you've been brought up and the discipline that you have definitely has an effect on how you go about your life and how you go about your adult life.
Yeah,
for sure. If you've been pushed as a teenager, that could have a positive effect on you. That could have a negative effect on you. It's
true.
There's definitely what it really boils down to, because I'm not able to comment on that. I'm not qualified to be able to comment on people's childhoods and so on.
Yes,
but
sure.
But what we do have to realize is that whatever we do, it's going to take a lot of work and a lot of deep work within yourself.
Yeah.
And you've got to be able to look at yourself in the mirror. You've got to be able to ask yourself a lot of questions in order to get through whatever it is that's holding you back. Now, those questions, you may have to have your own safe room. You may have to go into therapy to do that.
Yeah.
And no one should be ashamed of having to go into therapy if that's your safe room to be able to address those matters, because that's the true investment. Is the best investment? So it is the investment that you would have in yourself.
Yeah.
To develop yourself. Do you know what I mean?
And this is a side product to like a byproduct of choosing this path of DIY. If you really like I have found in my own life and my career that I wanted to not only just be able to produce something of my own, but in order to do that, what it meant as well was I have to challenge myself, and I had to come face to face with myself on a day-to-day basis. And it helps me improve all areas of my life, not just this business career. So have you found that as well? Has that been also, would you find that that's been a desire, like the kind of like, something that kind of, obviously when we first start out, we don't really see that, but
absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, it's that whole kind of, your mind, again, is a tool. Your mind isn't you. Right, but it's that mind chatter that is what we're talking about here.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's because it's that mind chatter that really is what holds a lot of us back.
Yeah,
it's the lies that we're telling ourselves, or the things that we were taught.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? That's how we should be looking at it. Which is incorrect. And when I say taught, that could be from your primary teacher, that could be from your high school teacher, that could be
exactly.
We've had so many teachers over the years, who influenced us. So, so there's all different ways to look at that. But yeah, it's I lost my trail of thought there now. What we were saying?
I was saying oh God, what was I saying? we went deep. We went deep.
It was mind chatter. That's what.
Yes.
Yeah, the things we tell ourselves.
The mind chatter was getting in the way there. Huh?
the destructive, destructive voices that we have, and as someone in music, I'm telling you, it's a hard job to get rid of that voice, but you got to do it.
You got to. That's what I mean by that. That's the discipline, is doing that daily. That daily work.
You're not going to do it by yourself. You're not going to do it by yourself. You're going to do it by investing in books to read, finding out what resonates with you. Finding techniques. There's many different techniques out there. There's a technique.
Do you do any meditation yourself?
Every day, yeah.
Yeah, amazing. So I think that's like the key. That for me, meditation is the number one tool. Is learning to for this purpose. What we're discussing, like meditation, is what I find to be the most revolutionary way to overcome your personal challenges. It's like and you
just
keep doing it.
Space for yourself.
Yeah, totally.
And being able to step away. And it was like when you were saying earlier, it's just like, what do you use when what are some of the techniques that you can use when you feel the fear is coming before, so you don't have to clash? That's one of them.
Yeah.
You step away. And you step away from it and you meditate. Sometimes when I'm developing a track and I'm writing a track, and it's just not going. It's just not going in the direction I want it to go. It's just not getting there. And it can go in certain directions, and it's great where it's going, but that's not where I want it to go. I have to step away. Now that step away, and I'm sure there are producers out there who would adhere to this, is that step away could be as long as a year.
Yeah.
It may even be longer. The step away could be 2 weeks. Do you know what I mean? But some things you just have to leave.
Yeah.
It's not the right time for that.
Yeah. No doubt you've got some bits and pieces that are sitting in the hard drive that come back and you're like, damn.
Yeah. and that's the good thing about it. That's the fun thing about it. And or you get some parts played for yourself and it just doesn't work. But then later on, those parts that you had played work somewhere else.
Yeah,
this is great. It matches perfect. Or a vocal that didn't quite work on something works on something else later. It's that's the beauty of making music. And I think once we understand that, we start to have fun with the process rather than, oh my gosh, why isn't this working? It's have fun with it. Let it go.
Yes. And this is what I was saying before about like we can go blue in the face with strategy, and trying to like create this like perfect situation, but you've got to come back to that visceral fun. And I love this analogy is of like when you look at, if you look at Stevie Wonder, he's never thinking about how to create the perfect hit record. He doesn't think that way. He's just like that. That's why he's moving the way he is. Like he's feeling like this heart, this place. And he's making music purely just from the love. And that's it. And if it becomes a hit, it becomes a hit. It doesn't. He's not thinking in those formula ways. Yeah, that's what I meant by strategy. Getting so overwhelmed with strategy.
It's interesting you say that as well, because I think the reason why the DIY approach has to become more paramount in the music industry is that's the only way we're going to hear people's heart in the music. We're not going to hear it from the majors. They're not going to invest in that. And the reason why, the great artists of the late 60s and the 70s were able to release all of that music is because the big wigs who were in the majors were just there for money. They weren't there as A&Rs. They were just letting the artists and the producers do what they wanted to do. Create what you want to create. We're just going to put this out. They weren't there to mold them the way
Right.
majors have been molding artists in the past couple of decades. So they were given complete freedom. And with that, what did we get? We got beautiful music that stood the test of time. And I think that's hopefully now there's more momentum towards people because of the different various platforms that are out there. There's more momentum for people to release music now for themselves.
You know,
it's
interesting that you say that about the majors as well. I beginning to see from recent sort of research is that I'm seeing a lot of the majors, while there's a lot of subdivisions and distribution, and within those A&R that are signing up new labels, they're actually I would say it's almost like the same approach, because they're seeing these communities of artists that are coming from this place that we're talking about of authenticity, and then they're realizing, wow, these guys are doing it there's only so much that they can offer, because a lot of these artists are doing it by themselves. I've been doing this research in Morocco. There's this hip-hop movement that's happening there. Huge. I was just brought to my attention just this week, and this has been going on for ages. The stuff that I found in Greece recently. Now, they are connected now to majors, because the majors are providing this massive service for bigger distribution and getting it out. But at the essence of it, they're still allowing what you just explained, like this kind of like, well, these guys they know what they're doing. We don't need to tell them, like they've already worked it out. Like, but we'll provide that platform, we'll provide that service. So I think, it was just an observation that I thought.
If that's what's happening, out there, because I don't really pay much attention to the major world now of late, but if that's what's happening out there, then that's fantastic. And I hope when that label or those artists then choose to want to pivot and say, you know what, we're going to change our style now, we want to do this, that they'll still continue to support them and say, no, hold. You've been making us millions there. Don't change nothing. You know what I mean? And I hope they continue to support them, because that's when the real test will be.
Yes, true.
They've really got their back.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And they're really giving them their freedom.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's sometimes I wonder if these these sub-labels that are coming under all these majors, are they just there to kind of like hide and disguise, inside the major ecosystem to kind of look like they're DIY,
major labels' whole system, the record industry, actually, its whole system is so archaic, it's so dated, it's so, it's got the same contracts in place that it's had since the 70s. That's 50 years.
Mm.
You know what I mean? The same model, the same business model. Right. And, artists, really, producers, everyone needs to wake up and realize now that you actually don't need to be with these companies. You don't. You can do it on your own.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a longer way, but it's much more rewarding. It can be rewarding for you financially because you'll keep a hold of your masters.
Mm.
It can be rewarding for you in terms of having the freedom to be able to be creating the music that you want to create and when you want to create it and release it. You want to release. Prince is a perfect example of that. Do you know what I mean?
Mm.
So, which is why he wanted to get out of that. So, I think this is the way, this is the new way of artists really have to approach putting out their music.
Mm.
They have to learn everything. Learn all the areas and don't be afraid to do that. And don't be afraid to...
It can be overwhelming. It can be overwhelming.
It can be overwhelming, but, it's overwhelming because it's something new that you don't...
Exactly.
It's new. Exactly. Anything that you start, any new job that you start is overwhelming, right? But once you get into it, as someone on the inside looking out, saying, no, actually, once you get into it, you can handle it.
Mm.
You know what I mean? And once you start to grow, you can grow your team and you can bring in the right people to take over areas which you don't want to actually manage. Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with that, you know, but to get it started, you can get it started now.
Yeah.
You can.
Yeah, totally. Would you say this is kind of like also what's inspired you now with this new project that you're working on with Melbourne or Australian artists, this jazz? But tell me the name. It's something Source. What's it called?
Inner Source.
Inner Source. I love it.
Inner Source. Well, yeah, and that's kind of what I saw in the artists and the musicians that I've come across here in Melbourne in particular. So it's just like there's just like a creative source that these guys and I actually spell sauce as in ketchup sauce, as in S-H. But they've got that sauce, you know. They've got there's something there that's just like, where did that come from? You guys have, you know. I'm particularly focused on the jazz side and the way they're fusing the jazz and the electronic music together, dance music, house music. They're putting it all into one bag and mixing it up.
Yeah. I love it.
You know, when I listen to it, I'm hearing 90s house. I'm hearing
acid jazz,
70s funk. I'm hearing acid jazz.
Totally.
I'm hearing soul. I'm hearing everything in there in terms of the licks and the timbres.
So true.
The different instruments the choice of instruments that they're bringing to the table. And it's great to hear live drums and dance music again. You know what I mean? So there's this wonderful scene which is burgeoning, which is developing here in Australia, and I just wanted to be a part of it and see how can I assist in growing that. And you know, I can only do what I know how, and that is produce and start a label.
Have you got some new projects now? Are there any releases yet?
Yes, so we're in the works. So the first compilation is I've got Horatio Luna.
Oh, cool! Amazing.
Yeah, so because he's really one of the kind of like founding fathers, if you like, of this whole sound that's developing.
It's happening,
yeah. And he's like a huge supporter of a lot of these younger acts. You know, gives them a lot of motivation, a lot of positive vibes, and he's so he was the ideal choice for me to bring on board to say, you know, get these guys together and compile it. Let's put them together on one compilation album and let's present it as an album. That's going to be coming out.
Are you familiar with Sampology?
Yes.
He's doing great stuff.
He's over in Brisbane.
Yeah. He's got his latest thing that came out a few months ago, and he's also working with this young Melbourne vocalist as well, who I met at the Electronic Music Conference last year. Tiana, I think her name, unbelievable singer. This girl is incredible. I'll send you a link.
Right.
Yeah. And I think she's in Melbourne too, this girl. And
there's so much.
It's incredible. And what's amazing is that it's like all these 20-year-olds. It's like, where like there's this gap between all this amazing, like, and all of a sudden all this beautiful music's coming out from this younger generation. And like, for me, I feel so like, yay, you know, it's like so refreshing, you know, it's awesome. So cool.
Yeah. So I have that compilation that's coming.
Is that the first release for the?
That's going to be, and then I'm producing a band.
Amazing.
Called Lush Life.
Okay.
As well. So we've got an EP coming out with that band, and I've also got another band who I've signed here called Only, and we'll be releasing their EP as well. Okay. So that's the first stages of.
Is there anything online now about the label?
No, we're still
very early days. Okay.
Yeah, very early days. But by the end of the year, it would all be out there.
Okay, amazing. Okay,
I'm really excited about that project because, you know, I'm dealing with musicians and artists who have so much belief in themselves, and they're really focused on their craft, on developing their craft. They're serious musicians.
Yeah,
they're jazz.
Yeah.
And it just feels like such a breath of fresh air.
Yeah.
To be releasing. Oh, and another artist I have is James Smith, who's actually one of my co-writers I've been working with for many years. He's got his own EP that's going to be coming out on the label as well. And I'm really excited. That's more so coming from your neo soul direction.
Okay.
But he's an amazing musician, amazing producer, and really excited about putting his material out as well.
Excellent. Oh man, I can't wait, mate. I can't wait. Well, tell the listeners where they can find Zepherin Saint online now. Like what? The usual suspects.
Usual Facebook. Just type Zepherin Saint Facebook. Instagram, Spotify, Apple. It's all on those sites. DJs, downloads, Beatport, Traxsource. Just put it in there. You'll be able to get all my material.
Yeah, well, there's definitely a lot of great stuff on Tribe Records for you house and soulful heads out there. Dean, it was so awesome to chat with you today.
Yeah, it was great. Yeah, it was great.
I loved it.
I enjoyed it.
Thank you again, Dean.
Thank you, man.
So awesome, man. All right.
Yeah, thanks, James.
Take care. Bye-bye.